About 8 pounds of clay. You can try 4 pounds, depending on your ability of handling the clay. Okay. For using the sodium silicate, because you want to stretch it, so my suggestion is if you could use a fresh clay instead of a recycled clay. Okay. If you use a recycled clay, it might collapse because it's not so plastic. So when you stretch it, it's very easy to collapse. So use a fresh clay will be better.
Why does it make a difference? Why is fresh clay more plastic than?
Well, when you recycle your clay, the inside is usually if you recycle your clay, you wanna edge your clay, like you wedge it and then you put it for maybe a week. It will be better. But if you keep on using it, use some dry clay, some mixing with some soft clay. Sometimes it's not very plastic. Yeah, and also the fresh bag of clay, they already the air. Use a pot mill, so it's the air already. But when you recycle your clay, you don't do that. So your recycled clay will be less plastic. Okay. So when I'm opening, you can see that my finger is hanging on the outside to compress this wall. A lot of people has good center, but when they open it, they lose the center. It's because when you're drilling, the wall is not compressed. So you lose your center. Okay, so you can open it wider. You could run your fingertips there to compress the inside of the bottom. Open it wider, and but if you want to get it higher, you color in, make it higher, make it narrower. And if this part is too thick, you can try to lift. Okay, lift using the thumb here. Just lift this part here first, so that your head is not too heavy. So I toss the slip inside, and then I grab from the inside of the bottom and then coat it before I try to lift. Still keep it narrow. nothing rush. See that I move my hand slowly but very steady. Narrow, yeah. Yeah, because you want to expand it to be able to see the crack hole for the sodium silicate. You want to start with a narrow cylinder and then.
Narrower than that and shorter.
Yeah, it could be narrower than that, as long as your hand can go inside later on, yeah. And I will use the metal rib to clean up more on the surface and shape it a little bit. And if you watch closely, when I'm using this metal rib, I tend to squeeze it. So when I start it flat, but I don't want this corner to scratch on the bottom. So once I move up, I kind of bend it, so this part is away from the wall. So I don't draw a line. Usually, if you do that, you will draw the line on the bottom. So that's a little tip to tell you. So the reason why I kind of move this part in is later on I'm going to use this to draw lines. I don't want to draw all the way to the top, so just kind of stop right here. Okay, so we're using this. To make some lines, and then after I put the sodium silicate and I stretch, the line will become interesting versus the plain surface, because the line is going to break and you will see.
You don't need to dry the surface?
Not yet, not yet. After you throw, you coat the sodium silicate and then you dry the surface. Let's find a starting point here.
Does it matter how you apply it?
Yeah, if you apply the thicker, that crackle line will be bigger. And also, initially, if your wall is thicker, yeah, when you stretch it, the crackle will be thicker too.
So I think last time when you were demonstrating that, we just kind of paint it as it goes around. So right now you're applying it up and down. Does that help? Because
I don't know.
Okay.
But that's my assumption, that because since I have the lines goes vertical, so I just go with the lines.
I suppose it'll be a more consistent thickness. If you have it going around as you move the brush up, you get less sodium silicates.
Okay.
I don't know.
You can double coat it, you can go back
Maybe
and
it
forth.
fills in the cracks a little better,
Yeah.
going up and down rather than, I don't know. I was just curious whether application matters.
So can you talk more about the sodium silicate itself? Because I know Dan doesn't like the trimmings from anything with sodium silicate in the reclaim bucket,
Okay.
and maybe why that is.
Well, a little bit of the sodium silicate is okay.
Well, what would more of it do? It crystallizes more like glass, like would become like.
Well, unless it's big chunk in the clay, that might affect, but it will dissolve in the clay, so I don't think it's just sodium. Little bit of sodium, it's not that big deal. But if you recycle clay, you will probably find it hard to throw if you don't reuse the clay once you or your piece collapse, and then you try to recycle your sodium silicate clay. It's probably hard to throw again.
Oh, okay.
Probably explains it.
So maybe it's not so much the trimmings, it's just your whole piece. If your whole piece is messed up, you
Yeah.
throw it away versus big enough recycle bin.
Yeah.
There was a Chris guy. He said he was very careful about everything about sodium silicate. He said throw all that away. Don't contaminate the bucket. And I think if we reclaim those clay, it's still probably not so good to have just a little bit inside. But that's,
In your brushing over the marks you've already made, the
Mhm,
marks
yeah,
are
I know.
becoming
Yeah.
smoother. Is that
Yeah, because
Intentional.
the sodium silicate kind of dissolve the clay. if you do the slip cast, you want to get your slip more liquidized, you add a little bit of sodium silicate. Your slip become very fluid. It's easy to pull in and out. So that's the factory. When they slip cast, they add a little bit. You will see the difference. But I think a little bit of sodium silicate won't affect that much. Earlier this morning, I have a piece with sodium silicate that collapsed. I managed to re-wedge the clay, and then I throw a big, nice flower pot, the Ikebana vase.
So you're going around this twice.
Yeah, well, I kind of try to see which spot has less sodium silicate. You can see the shinier surface. And if that spot is not shiny, that I
It's
emphasize.
like I think it's when you're carving, it should be a little thicker, right? So that the lines doesn't disappear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and drying is also important too. When you're using the torch, you're gonna over dry. So you don't wanna stay on the same spot too long.
I was thinking last time when I was stretching mine, it cracked.
A little bit shiny, that should be okay. Well, if your piece is wet, you might get might not get a bigger crackle, but it's okay. You want a little bit of variations. Some spot that crackle more, some spot crack less. So basically, you are not touching the outside and just using your inside hand to stretch it.
And you still have slip at the bottom, and that's what's helping you come up?
Yeah. So you can see that my fingers inside is gonna move it up.
I guess you just go slowly. Or this is fast.
You see the variations, the bigger and smaller crackle lines.
Do you glaze this later?
You could use the same dry glaze to spray it along, or Shino glaze goes nice too with that sodium
will
silicate.
the glaze cover the crack?
Yeah, the glaze will cover it.
Then you don't see the crack.
Yeah. And you see that when I'm stretching, I go slowly. Now I can sit down. bubble. So now we could do something interesting on the top.
How do you get rid of the globs of clay on the line? Wait until it dries.
What?
The globs of clay on the line, and you
Mm-hmm.
turn it. On the other side, there's a bunch of stuff. All that.
This? Yeah, you clean up later. Yeah, it's very easy to clean.
Right, when it dries
Yeah.
a little.
Yeah, when it dry a little, yeah. Very easy to clean. So that's about it. Let me. Oh, I didn't bring my cutting. I usually like to use my wood knife to cut it, and then this part to go will be easier through. This part is hard to cut it out. Okay, that's all right. Let's forget about it. So that's the sodium silicate. A little bit variations. You draw some lines. You can even draw circles. Okay. In one of my YouTube videos, I even use a tiered newspaper. I'm masking some of the spot. Okay, and then I brush the sodium silicate over, so some spot will have a lighter, smaller crackle because of the newspaper. Some spot will get bigger crackle lines. So it's a lot of variations. Or you can even use the roller. Our roller texture. You roll your texture and then you brush the sodium silicate and then you stretch it. You get many variations from this kind of technique.
Would you get stretches between the marks that you made, even if you didn't use the sodium silicate, but you just put the marks and then dried it?
Yeah, you will get stretched, but you don't get this kind of a small crackle surface. That's from the sodium silicate. The sodium silicate, when it's dried, it bound to your clay body, and when you pour it apart, you kind of, the sodium silicate is attached to the surface of clay, so you get like a dry farm, that kind of dry looking. That's the effect of the sodium silicate. Okay? All right.
Very nice.
So that's how demonstrating.